Planning Commission meeting to order. It's 4:01. My name's Shane Blazer. I'm the chairperson of the Planning Commission. Kyle, could you take roll call, please?
Mayor Blazer,
Here.
Alderman Austin,
Here.
Lee Tao, absent. Eric Dobbin,
Here.
Susan Feith is excused. Ben Goodrow,
Here.
and the new member, Thad Kubishak.
Present.
All right,
We
thank
have a
you.
quorum of 5. Thank you.
Thank you. And welcome, Thad. Glad to have you back here participating in government. Item 1 is approval of the reports of the July 7th, 22 Plan Commission meeting. And what are your wishes?
I'll make a motion to accept. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Kyle?
I just want to note that Dennis pointed out that he was not listed as being present at the meeting, so we will correct the minutes to ensure that he's listed. Thank you.
Seems to be happening to you, Dennis, here. All right, so we have a motion and a second to approve the report or the minutes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? That motion carries. On to item 2, Vanderwall and Associates, so Wisconsin Rapids Recovery and Redevelopment Plan update. Kyle, Gary?
Thank you. So the update primarily consists of the Forest Industries of the Future Symposium that was held on Thursday, July 21st. We had, I believe, over 80 participants attend that webinar. That lasted about 2 hours. We did record the webinar, so it is available for those who haven't watched it or any member of the public that wishes to watch it. On the project page, if you go to the Community Development website, you'll see the project page under Planning and Zoning. The other thing I want to note with regards to the project, when we released the survey, the online survey a few weeks ago, it was well received. We have over 400 responses to the survey thus far, and we will probably keep it open here for maybe another week or two and then start summarizing the responses in the middle of August here. But I think that's a great response rate considering very few attended the public meeting. Again, we're still hopefully on track to have this wrapped up by the end of the summer or early fall and then begin the implementation for the project. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, we're on to item 3, Wisconsin Rapids Public School District 22-000749, a request for a site plan review to perform a site improvements at 1801 16th Street South, parcel ID 3414751.
Thank you. So before you, we have a request from the school district at Lincoln High School to expand the parking. Typically for parking lot reconstruction or repaving, you would not need to go to Plan Commission, but with any expansion, you're expanding the impervious surface and maybe triggering additional landscaping requirements. Therefore, the item is before Plan Commission for review. I do also want to note that the project did start without obviously prior approval here and through the engineering office. It was brought to the school district and the contractor's attention, and they are now obviously working towards those approvals. With regards to the review, it's pretty straightforward. The addition is occurring on the east side of the parking lot. About a quarter or a third of the parking area is being added onto, and it will match the existing northern and southerly boundary, and it'll add several needed stalls. One item that I do want to bring up with regards to the conditions that we're placing upon it is that as we looked closer at it, there were a few dimensional requirements that did not meet the parking requirements. For example, the aisle width or the total width of parking stalls, aisles, and a second row of parking for 90-degree stalls. And so they were about about a foot to 2 feet in different areas. So we would just recommend a condition be added to those 8 already recommended that states an updated site plan showing proper dimensions shall be submitted to be reviewed and approved by the Community Development Department. Again, I think those added couple of feet can be easily attained. They just need to be noted on an updated site plan. With that, again, it seems appropriate and for the school district to obviously repave and expand, and we would recommend approval with those 9 conditions now. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Anybody have any questions?
I have a question, Commissioner.
Okay.
What is the additional feet to the east then, Kyle? It's hard to see due to the graphic
I would
not being
have
very high
to-
quality.
I would have to, exit and zoom in. I would say, right, so the stalls are about 18 feet. You're looking at about a 25-foot drive aisle, so 18 times 4 plus 50, you're probably about 120 to 130 feet or more, I would say.
Okay, and then
You
that
know, if
would
you add
make,
that landscaping buffer to the east.
do you know what the total distance is from the road to the back of the lot there?
To the edge of the,
Impervious surface with the new addition.
I do not offhand,
Okay.
but it's certainly something we can have Carrie pull up here and take a look at, if it's pertinent to, a condition or the review.
No further questions.
Thank you. Eric?
I just had a question about, I know you said mention engineering department. Were they involved with the ingress and egress of the entrance and exit there? I know that's been changed a couple times the last couple of years, and didn't know how
Yep.
that was going to work.
They are currently involved. I believe they are okay maintaining the existing ingress and egress. They're also working through I believe the DNR permits and the stormwater permits necessary for the expansion.
Is the northern entrance changing to entrance and exit? It looks like in the arrows,
Yep, I believe it is turning into a two-way.
but you can only turn,
It'd be a
North.
right turn only, I believe, is how it will be identified. And that was a condition that we added with regards to the vehicle routes need to be signed properly to maintain adequate traffic flow throughout the site.
thank you. Then I had one more question about sidewalks. I know before, it's kind of been a topic, I know when that business up on Fremont wanted to make an addition that triggered the discussion if sidewalks were needed or not needed. With this being done, does that change the whole property of understanding if sidewalks are needed in different areas? I guess the one, I think I brought it up last time, was just from where the PAC is to the expressway. There is no sidewalk there, so if people are walking past the PAC, they have to go up by the new addition of the main entrance or through that parking lot or across the road. What's the ordinance or requirement on if sidewalks are needed or not?
So I believe sidewalks are typically a requirement for all new development or new construction. It's a little bit more uncertain with regards to additions or expansions, depending on what currently exists on the site. There have been developments, you'll recall a salon studio that was adamant that they did not want to pursue sidewalks, going as far as a zoning board of appeals request for a variance. So in most cases, in almost all cases, they're typically required unless, of course, there's a unique agricultural type use, depending on where it's located in the city, that would not warrant it.
I just think of all the places that the city requires sidewalks in front of a school would be an important one. But if engineering's signed off on it,
I think there are sidewalks shown on the screen here in the front, existing sidewalks, I believe.
yeah, this way, but then when you go to the PAC, it just ends at that parking lot, and you would have to walk
Oh, you're
through-
saying farther north.
Yeah.
Right, so I think he's saying. Yeah, it's kind of unique. Might be a situation where, if the plan commission feel like it's adequate to require them, they could place a condition upon them. The expanded area here isn't, right, the sidewalks that you've mentioned aren't directly adjacent to the facility in this case. But I know the expansion for the atrium area came before Plan Commission, and I think it might have even been discussed at that time, or at least questioned and brought up about a year ago.
Thank you. Nothing else.
Thank you. Any other questions? I guess my only question would be, Craig, are you aware of all the staff recommendations and you're good with those, or any concerns?
Craig, could you come?
Maybe come to the microphone, sorry.
You know me, I don't pass up an opportunity to talk, so I appreciate
You're up.
the chance. Welcome back, Thad. I didn't realize that was you. It was a different beard approach. But yeah, so we are working through some issues with another iteration of the Safe Routes to School plan. So there is a strong possibility that if that gets funded, that would be addressed, that sidewalk area in front of Lincoln High School. Because I would tend to agree with you, Eric, that it would be the most logical place for a sidewalk to be. So one of the pieces, of course, though, is spending those kind of dollars and then maintaining it and keeping it free of snow and ice and so forth all winter long. But frankly, if we can make it happen, we'll end up putting one there.
As for the parking lot, you're good with the conditions or the recommendations?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I think obviously the parking stalls are needed, especially with the quadplex there and all the activities up there. The additional parking, I'm sure, will be well used.
And just for the record, too, that path, that this might have been addressed at a different meeting, but there is a path now through the Lincoln parking lot with that expansion that should make it safer for at least student and visitor access to the building and things at the PAC and in the Lincoln Field House, which of course is not the case currently. It's just basically a wide open parking lot, so.
And then while you're up there, and then that drop-off area, that changes, so now students will be dropped off there instead of the main entrance? Or
Yeah,
the
so all
bus
of
area?
the old stuff is going to be student parking, and then parents and other individuals that are doing drop-off will circle in that new property, drop off, and then come right back out the same south area that they came in.
And then just buses on the north?
You got it.
Yeah, perfect.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Craig. And I'll make a motion that we approve the site plan.
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That motion carries. We are on to item number 3 or 4, which is Deborah Pritchett, 22-00685, public hearing and action on a request for a conditional use permit to operate a tourist rooming house at 541 Baker Street, parcel ID 3407693.
Thanks. I will turn it over to Carrie. Carrie, if you want to take it away, thanks.
Okay, good evening, Chair Blazer and members of the commission. So this is a conditional use permit for a tourist rooming house, and as you'll remember, we just had a couple of these that were approved, and there are 2 additional tourist rooming houses before you tonight. So the first one is for a tourist rooming house at 541 Baker Street, and this is a single-family home that has 1,595 square feet of living area and a small 312 square foot detached garage. And it's zoned R2 mixed residential, and like similar to the others that you've seen recently, a tourist rooming house is a conditional use within the R2 district. So the property is just kind of a standard single-family residence. They are planning to rent the entirety of the unit. They're anticipating no more than 8 people. It does meet all dimensional standards and other standards, parking, et cetera. And as staff, we do feel that it's suitable for the proposed use. One item that is of note, at the last Common Council meeting, they did make the decision to remove the conditions that were attached to the permit, the conditional use permit. The supplemental standards as outlined in the zoning code would still apply regardless, just because those are overriding kind of supplemental standards that are attached to any tourist rooming house that's approved in the city. So most of the conditions before you mirror our supplemental standards as written. The only additional conditions are that we did add what the Planning Commission had requested previously, which was that the conditional use permit shall be reviewed by the Community Development Department 6 months after approval. It gives us an opportunity to kind of review that and kind of take stock of the operation and how that conditional use permit is operating. We also included the other 2 that were that the planning commission determined they would like to see at the previous meeting, which is the transfer of property ownership shall require review of the conditional use permit by the plan commission and common council prior to operation of use under new ownership, and then that it would be on the owner to notify the city in writing prior to any transfer of ownership. And the applicant is here tonight if you have any questions for the applicant.
Anybody have any questions?
I'll move to approve the request.
I'll second.
Public hearing?
Oh, good point. You want to withdraw your motion?
Withdrawal.
Okay. So yes, we need to open a public hearing, so I'll call 3 times for anybody that wishes to speak against the request. So for a first time, is there anybody that wishes to speak against the tourist rooming house? And for a second time, does anybody wish to speak against it? And for a final third time, does anybody wish to speak against the request? Okay, then I will call for 3 times for anybody that wishes to speak in favor of the request. So for a first time, does anybody wish to speak in favor of the request? And for a second time, does anybody wish to speak in favor of the request? And for a third and final time, does anybody wish to speak in favor of the request? Okay, we can close the public hearing. I think it's about 4:17. Now, Commissioner, what's your request or your thoughts?
I'll move to approve the request.
I will second.
So we have a motion and a second. I guess just so everyone's aware, last time I ended up breaking a tie, and the council decided to remove all the conditions, well, ultimately by a majority. So I don't know what's going to happen. The first set of conditions here are established by state law, and so we have the commission has a couple of extra ones that they have on there. But I just want to let you be aware of that if you weren't aware. It might change when it goes back to council. So we have a motion and a second. Did you have something to say, Eric?
Yeah, just where is that, the change, the possible, if it's a permit, where is that is that coming back to us or going to
So
different committee?
So we will be bringing back an ordinance amendment in September, and that ordinance amendment is not before you today because it requires 3 weeks' notice for public hearing, and so we did not meet the deadline for the August Plan Commission meeting. So come back in September. If it's not unanimous at council in September, it would go for a second reading in October. But anything that's approved prior, let's say council determines to make it a permitted use, any conditional uses that have been issued prior would ultimately no longer be necessary if the use is permitted.
I guess a little bit on my logic is that, these are already regulated by the state, and they're more regulated than a rental property. And so we can have rental properties next door without any conditions, thoughts, or regards, where these are, they do have other state standards that have to be followed. And so I guess my thought was, and we can have a greater discussion when that comes back to the commission, but I guess my opinion, they're already regulated. But I still will vote in favor of this motion to send it to council. So any other discussions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? That motion carried. So we are on to item 5 with Kim Kinsey, 22-000686, public hearing, which I won't forget, and an action on a request for a conditional use permit to operate a tourist rooming house at 1651 Riverwood Lane, parcel ID 3408659.
All right, and so again, this is a second tourist rooming house before you tonight. There's a lot of similarity to the one that you just saw. This one is located on 1651 Riverwood Lane. It's also zoned R2 mixed residential district. And again, tourist rooming houses are conditional uses within that district. So after review of this property, it's also just a typical kind of single-family residence. The size of the parcel is adequate, the property is suitable, the use is consistent with surrounding land uses. This one actually is adjacent to more kind of unimproved property, so there's less neighbors surrounding the property. The renters would be subject to all municipal code ordinances, including the city's noise ordinance. And again, all supplemental standards apply, including maintaining a guest registry, establishing a point of contact within a 5-mile radius, and meeting parking requirements, et cetera, which they do. Again, staff has added conditions of approval, including that the approval be reviewed in 6 months, that it be reviewed in case of transfer of ownership, and that the current owner is responsible to notify the city in writing if the ownership does change. And staff is recommending approval with conditions.
Thank you. I guess at this point, we'll open up the public hearing. It's like, what, 4:23? I'll call 3 times for anybody that wishes to speak against the request. So for a first time, does anybody wish to speak against the tourist rooming house? For a second time, does anybody wish to speak against it? And for a third and final time, does anybody wish to speak against it? All right, does anybody wish to speak in favor of the request? Anybody, for a second time, does anybody wish to speak in favor? And for a third and final time, does anybody wish to speak in favor of the request? All right, seeing none, we can close the public hearing at 4:24 and open it up to the commission. Any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second to approve the request. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Does anybody oppose? Okay, that motion carries. Congratulations. We are on to our final item, item 6, which is adjournment.
Make a motion to adjourn.
So we have a motion. I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion, or meeting adjourned. Thank you.